coaches are in. When you need a timely, transparent friend, tune into the coaches are in. Talking career, business, health, and wealth. You got a friend. Tune into the coaches are in. With authenticity, come on, let's take a seat and tune in.
Well, hello.
Hey.
Hey, girl.
Hey. All right,
We're busy.
Yes, we are back for season 4 of The Coaches Are In, and we are so excited to be back. We have missed you all. Hopefully, you've missed us too. And I don't know if you saw that post that I made. It's just like, whew, child, life has been lifing because we wanted to be here in February, but it just didn't work out.
Dude, I didn't even think you was going to tell. I didn't even think you was going to tell them the truth.
Yeah, I was going to say, hey, real, raw, authentic, truth telling. That's what this show is about.
Hey,
and it hasn't been life, and life is not necessarily bad stuff. You know,
right.
Good stuff can be going on, and it's just busy. And I think for the most part, it has been good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
just busy.
I would think so.
Yeah, just caused the delay, and we're just like, you know what, we got to get back. We got to get back now. So, I mean, the lesson from this is that things don't have to be perfect for you to act. Because if we waited until, you know, like we really felt like we had the time, we'd not
still be waiting.
Yeah, for real though.
I agree.
But we were just like, no, like literally the message was like, all right, I'm not ready, but we need to do this. Y'all ready?
I'm ready.
That's
we
exactly
ready.
true.
We make it happen. Make it happen.
Yes, yeah. So we are here and we're excited to be back. Again, this is season 4. And we're going to be doing things a little bit different this season. But before we go into that, let's just go ahead and introduce ourselves for those who are tuning in for the first time and who don't know who we are. Allison, you kick us off with that.
All right, I will kick it off. My name is Allison Garrett. I am your behavioral interventionist, and I work with women who struggle with identifying exactly what has them stuck, and I help them break through without years of therapy.
Well, I'm Dr. Malika,
All right.
and I'm glad to be back. And I'm your confidence coach. Now, it's not on there because I didn't write it on there. Okay, I'll add it later. So, and because I wear so many hats, I'm like, okay, what do I do? Okay, yes, confidence. Basically, I help you build confidence, probably through motivation more than anything, and inspiration. But yes, that's who I am, and that's what I do.
Yes,
That's right.
yes. And I'm Dr. Sharita Weatherspoon. I'm the creator of The Coaches Are In, and I am also an operations strategist and alignment coach. And in case you're wondering how those two things actually merge together, I guess I could sum it up by saying, well, I work with entrepreneurs. So let me say that Black women entrepreneurs, aspiring and established, who are looking to launch and grow purpose-based and profitable businesses. And the key thing that I do is help them to build businesses that align with who they are and their values and their lifestyle, or to realign in the case of existing businesses. And a lot of times that has to do with your operations. You need the way your business operates to support your values and your lifestyle desires. And in some cases, your spiritual alignment as well, so that it's a business you love and that loves you back. So that is what I do. That's my day job.
All day job.
Yes. So we said season 4 is bringing some different things, some new things, I guess. So we are excited to say that the way we are doing our seasons, this moving forward will be a little bit different. So in the past, we've done like the 12-week season and then took a break and then came back. We are going to be ongoing from this point on. We still will have seasons, but a season will probably be for a year. And we will be coming to you twice a month. So first and third Mondays, we will be live. here on YouTube with the Coaches Are In. We may take a break in December. We may take a break during the summer, but we got some past episodes that we can show you in case you missed them during those
Yes.
times. But for the
Mhm.
most part, we'll be here twice a month with you. And we will have some episodes where it's just the coaches and we are having conversations around various topics that impact Black women. Or maybe even about things going on in the world. So, again, those real, raw, truth telling conversations that still will help you to either cope or to potentially level up, depending on what the topic is. It still will be conversations of value. And then there
Mhm.
are episodes where we will have guests, and
Mhm.
some of those guests will either be where we are helping to promote up and coming entrepreneurs and their businesses, or we're celebrating or recognizing people or women who are giving back in their communities in some way, or expert interviews with other coaches or consultants or speakers or whoever who have a message or something of value that they can contribute to help you in your life, career, business, relationships, whatever the case may be. And then
Mhm.
we typically have our Ask the Coach segment in each episode. So we
Yes.
may or may not have that in every episode. 'Cause like tonight, we don't have that segment in this episode. But what we will do when we do have it, we either may be reading the question that has been submitted, or if you want to actually be on the show and come and ask your question and sit down and actually talk with us and engage with us in real time, you'll have the opportunity to do
Mhm.
that as well. And you can learn about all of those opportunities on our website at thecoachesrn.com. So you can go there, click the link at the top in the menu, and go to the page, read the information, submit your information if you like to be on on the show in any of those capacities. Let's see, is there anything else that I need to mention about
I think you
this
covered
week?
it and fully aligned.
All right, all right. So this week's topic is really interesting because I shared with the ladies, I'm like, all right, this is going to be the topic for Monday. And they're both like, we just had this conversation, like individually, everybody had
Yeah.
conversations around
Mhm.
this topic. So I think it is timely and something that, we should be talking about right now.
For sure.
So
Right.
it is what being the go-to girl is costing you. What being the go-to girl is costing you. So, ladies, what comes to mind when you hear the phrase the go-to girl?
I think um, what comes to my mind is like uh, I can't even think of one thing because there's so many things that are floating around. But it's like the go-to girl is the person that has all the answers. I would say the know-it-all, right?
Mhm.
Because I could identify with that. That was a negative word for me when I was growing up. Like I'm the know-it-all, and then I became the know-it-all. So I became the go-to girl. So I'm the one that has all the answers, no matter what it is, whether I did it, had it, know about it or not. I'm gonna get an answer. So that's how I look at it when I think about what comes to mind is the go-to girl.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say similar to that, the person that will take the time with people. So you kind of stop what you're doing, go to the person or give people your time. And so when I think about the go-to, it's like um you can always count on so and so. You can go to them, they'll stop what they're doing, they'll help you. But also you there's something about the approach they have, right? So they don't shut you out, they don't tell you off, right? They listen,
Mhm.
So I think it's the way in which the go-to girl receives people too, right? That people keep coming back or they tell people. And I think the other thing that comes to mind when I think of the go-to girl is the communicator.
Mhm.
Like
Mm,
she's going to communicate in such a way that you don't mind going back. That's why you
yeah.
soak up her time.
Mhm.
Are you saying she's too nice?
She's nice. She's not. She nice.
Nice.
She's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both of those things, and also I think it translates into other names as
Mm-hmm.
well. So the go-to girl could also be the strong one, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can
Mm-hmm.
also be the one with the money, who
Mm-hmm.
like needs some money, she
Mm-hmm.
got you.
Yes.
Can be the one who has all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Just the one that's dependable, oh, call this person,
She'll
like
do it.
Right.
she'll help, she'll do it,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
it's just like, she's the go-to girl because she can do,
Mm-hmm.
and she's not going to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Woo.
She will do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get the reputation. Everybody knows that that's you. You start getting
Yeah.
referrals as the go-to girl.
Yep.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we can't, and then we can't disappoint. So thinking about that, like that makes me have a deeper understanding, right? Being a go-to girl and having that experience, it's like thinking about the root of the go-to girl, right? What
Mm-hmm.
what is that identity? Where did we learn to equate love, value, or worth with being useful? Like, why is it that we feel good about doing that when everything that we said is not bad, but that sounds like a lot just listening. Like if you're always the person that people are depending on for all the resources, like where do you think that we get that from? I know I could say we could think of it being like culturally, maybe we saw somebody at home, growing up doing all the things. We might have had a grandmom or a mom that just took care of everybody. So I would say that's one of the main sources. But where do you ladies think we get that from?
I think definitely what we saw growing up, and I think even broader when we say culturally, it's even broader than that, because we historically were valued based on our labor and like what we could produce, right? So
Oh
we,
yeah.
we talk
Hmm.
about oh, I can't think of the exact name right now, but kind of like that trauma being in your DNA
Yeah,
kind
like
of
the
thing.
trauma. Yeah, yes, for
Yeah,
Trauma
sure.
bond or trauma.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that, and then that whole notion, remember when we read the book about rest,
Oh
and
yeah,
just
rest is
like that
resistance.
idea, like we attribute our own value to doing and being and accomplishing, almost like if we say no, that people will think differently
Hmm.
about us, that they won't like us anymore, they'll stop talking to us. So some of that is it, but then I also think that some of it is that we don't understand that we're valuable whether or not we do anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right? Not
Right.
even just if
Yes.
we don't do all the things, but if we don't do anything at all, we are still valuable. Um,
Hmm.
and I think we also do kind of almost wear as a badge of honor to wear
Yep.
ourselves out. Like,
Hmm.
because when people acknowledge that, like girl, you always doing
You do
something.
it all. That feels good. That's like a compliment. You like, I know. Don't say
Yeah.
it's the ego booster.
When you don't know any better. It
Right.
absolutely is.
Until you'll get there.
Yes.
I guess I wonder though, um, there's so many sacrifices that you make
Hmm.
to show up. The mental sacrifices. I
Hmm.
mean, you make a lot of sacrifices that people don't even see,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And I think, and I guess we could talk about that a little bit. Some of those sacrifices that are made in order to show up, because I think that some people are built that way. Some people are not built to show up. That's just because I don't think so. I've met people who don't. That's not what
It
they
don't matter
do.
what you do.
That's
They
right.
not showing
Yeah,
up.
they don't. They
No
Not even
not.
for
self, no one, nobody
themselves.
else.
You know what I'm saying? But I think I know recently I really had to assess, like, okay, do I need to show up in this way for real? And
Mhm.
who's going to be happy here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we don't make sacrifices, but I think just talking a little bit about that, the idea of the sacrifices that you make in order to show up. Because sometimes it's mental sacrifices, right? The
Yes.
wrestling that goes on with
For
inside of
sure.
you.
Right.
And then that manifests into some physical kinds of, like stomach, the stress,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mhm.
anxiety. But I don't know. I mean, what just in, your thoughts, some of those sacrifices that we make in order to show up. And we didn't talk about this, but the sacrifice or the thing that happens inside of you when you create boundaries and you say,
Mhm.
I'm not going to run myself ragged,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We
At some
think there's
point.
an automatic peace that
Mhm.
comes with that. But sometimes if that's not really
No. You're not
if
ready.
you're used to, right, if you're used to like the go, 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 and I want them to be happy, there's still some wrestling and some things that happen. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, you know what that reminds me of is the conversation that I was having, which is why when you mentioned it, Dr. Sharita, I was like, oh my gosh, I was just having this conversation. So I was sharing with friends, like we were just kind of sharing things that um like people rely on us for, what that actually is. And there is actually something considered emotional labor. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Mm,
working but not getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the things that you described is an emotional labor, because you feel the pressure of doing all of these things, and it weighs on you. And in a lot of situations and circumstances, it's like you're not getting paid for it. So you're
mm,
working, doing all these things, or having all the answers, or giving the money, and it emotionally it tears you apart. Like you said, physically it could make you ill. And I think also it's more difficult to get out of the longer you're doing it and the more you're used to it. So the
hmm,
toll is, when you think of how much, what does it cost? For some people, it costs their relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client who was struggling with something, and she decided to take on children, extra children, to help someone else out, but never consulted her spouse, and it cost her relationship. So, I mean, that's just one example of, and she's the helper, always helping, and she was expected to do it. And I'm talking to her, I'm like,
right,
well, you made a choice. You didn't have to do it. But
right.
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the things that I think is the cost. You don't really know what it would be, depending on what it is you do and who is involved.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways it can cost you. Obviously, that emotional labor that you talked about and impacting relationships can impact your business, um, and just even an impact to you, right? That now,
Right.
like, what changes with your time and your priorities and what's important to you? Because when you say yes to somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
like that yes is taking up space, right?
Yes.
So something else is going to have to be turned down, so
Mm-hmm.
you have the space to
Right.
do this thing over here. And because I'm recovering in this, like, or like a survivor of this, right? um because you don't really know how to say no to other people, it becomes easier to say no to yourself. But there is
Yeah.
still a cost associated with that no to yourself, because now
Oh yeah.
you can get regretting,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
not doing things and not experiencing things. You can start to resent the people that you said yes to, even though you said
You
yes.
said yes. You be like, what you mad
Right.
at?
Nobody held a gun to your head and told you that you had to do this.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like it comes, every yes comes at a cost. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes your no's do. Um, and a lot of times people are saying yes because they are afraid of what the no might bring in terms of the change in the relationship. Because we know
Mm-hmm.
that when people value what you do more than they value you,
Ooh,
when
say that
you
again.
say
That's a
no.
hashtag. That's a tweet. Say that again.
What did I say? When people value what you do more than they
More
value
than they value
you,
you.
right? That no can impact the relationship.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard people talk about, like, you know, with some relative asked for money again and they finally told them no, and then the relative stopped talking to them.
Right.
How are you going to stop talking to me about my money?
About
That I
my
work
fiscal
hard for?
responsibilities that you are not part of.
You know, but all of that can come with it. So I mean, I think we just have to recognize somebody's going to have to pay a cost.
Mhm.
Like, but it doesn't always have to be you. The cost could be on the person who's making the ask, that no, you know what, this time you're going to have to figure it out yourself, or
Right.
you're going to have to do it yourself, or you can just ask somebody else. Like,
Yeah.
you don't always have to ask me, and I'm not honored
Mhm.
that you're always asking me, right? But I think sometimes people are, and that's why they continue to say yes. I think I got to a point where I kind of realized, like, I don't
Yeah.
think it's, yeah, like
Right.
I don't think
This
I
isn't
actually
making me
like
feel
that.
good anymore.
Yeah.
There's a payoff, right? So for a period of time when you're doing that, there's a payoff, right? For somebody who
Hmm.
does it. You know, I know for me it was a payoff. It's because that made me feel needed and wanted and helpful. So then I was always praised for that. So then
Right.
my identity was wrapped up in how much I could do for other people. And that became what people complimented me for and knew me for. And then, you know, we had to start thinking of I had to start thinking of, how do I separate my identity from being available to everyone? And I can remember the first time I did it. This is when, you know, when I was dating, I found that to be a problem in my relationships. I'm like, I was always the one like pushing people and doing they would say, oh, I thought of this idea, and I'd have it all done and written out and ready to go. And, you know, then it became a part of me. Like I was now responsible for it.
Hmm.
So I had to separate my identity from being available by pretty much pretending that I didn't know how to do something that somebody asked me to do. Like this guy literally was like, "Can you do a resume for me?" I said, I don't know how to do that." And it wasn't the truth, but that's how I started practicing. I'm like,
Oh Lord,
I'm not
Alice.
getting, because now I'm responsible for you getting the job. I got to apply. I got to get you dressed for the interview. So how do we start to really separate our identity from, you know, your availability, always being available to everyone or saying yes all the time?
That's a good
That's a really good
question.
question. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think first it is just making the decision that you do not belong to the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? You are not here to be at the world's disposal. And you can't even say, like, oh, well, we're not talking about the world. I'm just talking about my family and my friends.
Right.
You don't belong to them either.
Mhm.
You
You
don't
your own
belong to
person.
them either, right? So you are put on this earth. You have a calling. You have a purpose. There are things that you are supposed to be doing. There are things that you want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
those
Right.
things maybe like there's some exceptions for the people who, like, who you birthed or who you're married to, or maybe the
Mm-hmm.
people who birthed you, right? But
Right.
outside of those people, none of their needs take priority
Hmm.
over your needs and
Yeah.
your desires. And
Yeah.
Right.
That's it. The priority.
somebody's somebody's need of you does not increase your value or worth, and their lack of a need for you does not decrease it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That's
And
good.
it speaks more about them than it does about
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm good. That was good enough.
So we need some help. We need some help, Dr. Malika. What do we need? What do we need to do at this point? Right? What do the ladies need to hear?
Well, here's my okay. Let me just veer off for a second. Here is my conflict within my own self. Well, it's not really in my own self. At this age, I know when to say no. And I am just not a direct no person. That's just not me. So I'm,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I find ways to express because I'm still sort of, you know, I don't like to cause what I think could be conflict or shake things. So I'm always dancing around my words. That's just me. But what I I'm being honest. But what I do think is in ministry, you know, and we don't talk about this, but does serving mean constant availability?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's, in ministry, you're asked to do various things. And so when you talk about separating identity, might be somebody out there who says, I'm a minister and I serve in ministry, I serve the church, or I serve in this capacity. So I find myself having to be available because that's a part of what I do. Right. So there goes
Mm-hmm.
identity versus, your availability. So that's why I was just sitting here listening, because I think sometimes you still, and we'll talk about this later, but you still have to balance
Mm-hmm.
how that works, because the Bible covers that whole idea. This is not spiritual talk, I know, but it covers the whole idea of people despitefully using you. So that's covered.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
then you have to figure out, okay, so, but you still have free will, and
Yeah.
you still are able to say, I can't do that,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
not available,
Mm-hmm.
and still be okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, and still be
Mm-hmm.
go-to girl, but
Yeah.
understanding that, I just don't think that I can do that right now. And that
Mm-hmm.
is okay. So
Yeah. It is.
that is
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. So I think we have to keep in mind that people will treat you the way you allow them to treat you, and they
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
will continue to expect certain things from you unless you teach them to expect something different. And I think the church and ministry example is a very good one. I've been in a few different churches across my life, not a whole lot, but a few, just kind of based on where we lived or
Hmm.
whatever. And I've always found that it doesn't matter the size of the church, because they've been different size churches, that there's a core handful of people who are always,
Who do the work.
always, and one,
Not
I feel
sometimes.
not, no, it's, I mean, it's like the same people are leading ministries or committees or whatever, and running this
Hmm.
on, in charge of that and all of that. And it's kind of like, well, one, if your first ministry, like, it's God, family, and church, the church should be concerned about how your time in the ministry is impacting
Your
your
family.
family.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And if you actually have more members than this core group who you're always depending on to do stuff, like, what, you can't give anybody else another opportunity to step
Opportunity.
up and do something, right?
Yeah.
So those are, so again, they're gonna, if you allow them to call on you all the time, they're gonna call on you
Mm-hmm.
all the time. That's
Yes.
Right.
that's just the truth of the matter. So you have to determine, well, what boundaries can I put in place? So maybe I'm not gonna be in church 3 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Hmm.
and maybe on Sundays I'm not going to be in church from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You know,
Right.
Hmm.
because I still have this family that I need to take care of, and and I want to rest. Like, on my days off from work, I actually want to get some rest too, right? Um,
Hmm.
Yes.
and I think it can be difficult conversations to have, and I understand the, like, feeling like you kind of have to tiptoe around. But again, there, somebody's response to your no is not your
Not
response,
your responsibility.
right? And I think it will show you how much they actually do value you or don't value you based on how they respond to your no. Like,
Right.
oh,
Hmm.
they could be disappointed. That's one thing, but to be
Mm-hmm.
upset and
Oh
almost
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
feel like you're obligated and you owe me to help out in this way,
Yeah.
that
Right.
relationship probably needs to shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
It probably needs to shift.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I just wonder if that, because that's another part of the, when you talk about identity, I'm like, church work really, there's like this thing of like the obligation, sometimes
Mhm.
that I imagine people experience out there
Yeah.
about their
And there's
availability.
identity in that too.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to, I think, and you're right, I don't expect the church, I'm in a different situation, but in general, I don't think that the church, you have to care about your family. You have to decide, okay, what are we doing here? And because you can't expect the church to, I don't want to say care about that, but like, some churches will run you, sometimes church, and not even church, but work will run you ragged. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be the one
Yeah.
to decide, like, okay, this is working for us. This is not working for us. Let's have a conversation about
Right. What
how
do we
this
need
is
to do?
impacting, yeah, how this is impacting our home. I
Mm-hmm.
think you have to have that conversation. You have to make that decision, like you and your household have to figure out
Hmm.
what are we doing, because some churches will have you ripping, running,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, you'll be all right. You know what I mean? Like, like,
Because
no,
they
we're
all
not
right.
gonna be okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Like, people have separated in the church because of the
Church.
work that they do. Exactly. So you have to, I think you have to pray and get wisdom on what you have to do and how you have to set boundaries and still show up when you need to show up and do what God's calling you to do. So
Yeah. Yeah,
anyway.
absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah. So what are just so for some takeaways for the folks tuning in, like, so what are some ways that we could actually say no? So either we're saying no or we're delaying or something, like how can we communicate to people?
You
What are
mean in general?
yeah, just like general when if you want to begin to shift from that being everything for everybody and
Hmm.
learn to say no and to put your needs and desires before other people's, like what are some ways that we can handle that when people make asks of us?
Say you don't know how to do it.
Even when you do, you don't have to lie.
Alice's,
You don't have to
listen, don't let your no mess up your integrity. You just tell them no then. No. She like lie.
There's things I don't know. I'm like, I don't know how to do that the way I think you want me to do it.
I don't know how to do resumes.
Okay, but
Now
if
That's
anybody listening,
hilarious to me.
if I ever told you how to do something.
right,
Lord have
while you got
mercy.
resume writer on your LinkedIn profile, but but so if you don't want to lie though, if you don't want to lie, but
Okay,
you don't, but
if you
maybe
want
you
to
don't
have
want to
more
be,
integrity,
huh?
I said if you want to start out with more integrity,
Yeah, we want to
Dr.
start with
Malika,
more integrity.
help us out because you the dancer.
I well, it's hard for me to give an answer outside of what I do. You see what I'm saying? That's why I'm just trying to um because I think if if you're being constantly pulled on, and that could be work, that could be any setting, you have to learn how to have the conversation. I don't tell people no. That's not me. I'm not doing that. Like, I don't come off that way. However, I might have to get off the phone with you, stop texting with you, and I might have to think through, like, is this too much? In my in my 20s, probably 30s, I was trying to be everything to everyone. In my 50s, not so much. But it's not so much, it's more of me thinking, like, not so much does it serve me, but it's like, do I have the time to do that? Is this going to create some, can I
Mm-hmm.
do this another time? Or can I um, forward you to somebody who probably can do just as good as me?
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't do it right now. So I would say that when you are being constantly the go-to person and it's creating this anxiety with your time, I think you need to figure out who you can refer the person to, or have that conversation of, not right, maybe not right now. Other than that, you might be somebody who might need to pray about it first. Like, let me figure out, if I need, how can I help this person and still keep my peace and still help them? Like, how can I do that? And that's just, I don't know.
Dr.
I
Sharita's
started
like,
smiling
some
on
things you don't need
that
to pray
last
about.
one. Look, Yeah, because see, I mean, if it's something you really want to do, like genuinely you want to do it, but you just can't figure out how
A
you can
way
make
to
it
do it.
work, that
Mhm.
might be something I pray about. Other than that, I'm not going to God with it. God already told me what I'm supposed to be focusing on. Right? And
Well,
what
and
So
that's
we're doing
right.
too much.
That's what I said. We all come from different, everybody's got different. That's not me.
yeah.
So then that, you know what I mean? I'm going to figure out like how to do it, you know. But
But
if
see,
I
but
can't,
that's the heart of the conversation is though, like you shouldn't even feel like you got to figure out how to do it. Like, and it's okay if
yeah,
you're
but
determining how does it serve me. That's okay. That's okay
yeah,
to
but I
make
don't,
a decision.
but I'm flowing out of a ministry point of view where I'm like, it ain't always going to serve me. it, I'm not,
Right?
everything I do is not always going to serve me in ministry or like, but if I know that something you're asking me to do is creating this, I don't have time, my schedule's already set, I can't do that, then I need to say to you, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
know how to do that now, but
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, 20 years ago, I didn't. And I just didn't want you to be mad, so I would do it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now I
Yeah.
know how to say, that's probably not going to work. So I'm not going to be able to do it.
She's still not saying no. She's like,
No.
I,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no,
that
I'm
so
gonna let
that's
you down
that's
easy.
that's an option right there. So
Yeah.
that's
It's
probably
still
not
a
going to
way to
work.
say it. Yeah.
But yeah, it could be
How
like,
you say it.
have
I'm
you
never going to
have
say
you
no
asked
to you.
anybody else? Have you asked anybody
Right.
else,
Hmm.
or have you thought about this person?
Give them
Um,
other resources.
right.
Yeah.
Or
Like
like,
even when my kids ask me something,
mhm,
it's like, it's been, sometimes it's like, you're going to need to ask your dad.
mhm,
Because they make, I may be the go-to, right, for this
mhm, mhm.
particular thing. And it's like, you're going to have to ask your dad.
Yep.
And it's like I'm okay with that. It feels weird saying it, but I'm okay with it because I'm
Mhm.
like, I can't. No, I can't. I just
Oh
can't.
yeah. Yeah. I also like that's a dad question. Like
Yeah,
that's mine
at
for
this
inside the
moment,
house. Like, yeah, you need to ask your dad that. Yeah.
yeah, like I can't. But they're used to being able to say,
Mom.
and I'm learning how to say,
Hmm.
Mhm.
no, I can't do that.
Yeah. But even with all of these like different options, like have you asked anybody else, or who else do you think could help you? Like you can
Hmm.
it really is okay to
I
just say
agree.
no and not feel like you have to explain your no.
You don't have to have an
So,
answer. Yeah.
yeah, and if they're pressing like, well, why? It's not something I want to do. That's not how I want to spend my time right now. Or I have other
Hmm.
things that are more important to me right now, or I don't have the bandwidth to do this or the
Right.
capacity to do it or to do it well. Like I
Yes.
can show up,
Right.
but I can't show up in
And having
excellence.
previous
So I'm not
commitment.
going to show up, right? Um, but I
Sometimes you
think,
don't have the bandwidth. That's a
yeah,
good point right there. You know,
yeah.
you're like,
And then
I can't.
sometimes it's just simply like I'm I'm really not interested in doing this. Like
In that.
I'm really just like I have no desire to do it. And
Yeah.
I understand I could be a
Hmm.
help to you, but I have no desire to do the thing that you're asking me to do.
Right.
Right. And that is okay. And I think that's kind of like the gist of the conversation
Where it get cloudy. Yeah.
is is okay.
Like no matter
It's
what it is,
okay.
no matter what the reason, you don't even really have to have one. If it's like you just don't, for whatever reason, you can't or you don't want to, you don't have to explain it. You're not obligated to share why. Even I even started telling people that will report to me is when they're not coming to work. You don't really need to tell me why. Like you're just not going to be here. Because I don't want to tell you
Right.
why I'm not going to be here. The reason doesn't matter. It's the fact is you're not going to be here. So we're just so used to over explaining ourselves
Mhm.
anyway of why you can't do something. You need it to sound good. Like just say you're not going to be here. I don't need to know. Just say you're going to be late. It doesn't matter if the dog was sick, car broke down, flat tire, kids out of school. Like just say what it is. Stick to the facts. And
Yeah.
you don't really need
Yeah.
excuses.
I learned that through when I was working. I remember that same conversation, and I thought, okay, because you're not explaining yourself to me. I can, you know what I mean? You're not explaining yourself to me, and so it was like, we're not gonna, you don't have to.
Okay.
You're just not gonna be in. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, that was different from other supervisors that I've had.
Right.
It's very
Hmm.
interesting because it feels different when
Yeah.
you switch up like that.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like,
Yeah.
is it okay? Is that okay? I'm giving myself, they're giving me the permission that I really should be giving myself. And sometimes it is a work practice, but you really don't
Right.
know if you have permission to
Yeah.
say less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just start off with less and then see what comes from
Right.
it,
I won't
right?
be here tomorrow.
But it's like
Oh, what's
it is
up? I'm
really
using, I'm
I
using
work for me
PTO. That's
now,
all
so
you
I
need to
don't have to
know.
worry about it.
but I'm saying even that practice outside of work,
Oh,
just say less and see how people respond. Because like I said, their responses might tell you all that you need to know for you to say no moving forward.
more than what you need to know. Hmm.
Y'all
Right?
know
Yep.
I don't say no, but you know I know what y'all
I
say.
don't know, Malika,
Yeah.
because I think you done told me no a couple of times.
I'm about to call Malika. I'm about to call Malika when we
With
get
no
off and ask her for
explanation?
something.
Yeah, okay. If I said no, it was because
Yeah, I
and
want
I
you to
give you
tell.
an
I'm gonna make
explanation.
you tell me no.
Yeah,
I
'cause
don't
I
say
think
it that often.
I had like recently I had something come up. I was saying something to somebody about grants, and they like asked me some sort of question that led to me having to say that, oh, like yeah, I have been a certified grant writer, and it
Right.
was like, oh, you write grants, and I'm
You can
like,
write mine then. I'm not even asking.
look, not anymore. Do do I still have the skill set? Yes. Do I still write grants? Nope. That is not how I want to spend my time.
Right.
Yes, that's a lot
Like,
of
no,
time
I
too, by the
don't.
way.
You know, and it was they were like, oh, okay. Now, I mean, I can
Yep.
if they really want, I can refer them to somebody or whatever. But it's just
Hmm.
like,
Right.
yeah, I can do that.
Yes.
I
Right.
don't do that anymore.
Hmm.
With a smile.
Yes.
you know. So it's okay. It's okay because remember at the end of the day, you got one life to live. And you don't want to live
Hmm.
it with regret that you didn't have the time and the energy to do the things that you wanted to do or that you were called to do because you were busy
Yeah.
saying yes to everything else everybody was asking
Yeah.
you to
Hmm.
do and not saying yes to yourself. So
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
True.
yeah,
good. So say yes to
True.
you is the lesson. If you take
yes,
away nothing else, say
yes,
more yes to you than others.
yes,
Because you'll wake up one day and you'll realize, what have I been doing all this time, and why haven't I done that thing? That thing that
hmm
I've been talking about for years and years because I've been so busy doing everything else for everybody else.
hmm yep. And let's not talk about if then when you need something, they're nowhere to be around and they don't have a problem telling that's a whole nother conversation. We ain't got time to go into that tonight. But I
Yes,
just
we
want to throw
can't get
that out
into it.
because all the people you
We
Crickets. How
saying
about we
yes
say that?
to,
Cricket.
we
everybody you
have
saying yes
listen
to ain't
this,
saying yes back.
but sometimes
This is
they won't.
good.
Exactly.
Sometimes they won't.
And again, that might be all you need to know to know how to answer moving forward. You only got one time.
And they didn't have a problem saying no. They said it a lot faster and easier.
Yep. Yep.
Oh
I
gosh.
I think
Glad to be back. Glad to
yes,
be back,
very glad
ladies.
to be back. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and transition out. We're a little bit over our time. We try to keep it to 30 minutes,
Yes.
but this
It was
conversation
just
was
too good.
good,
Yeah, it
and I
was
think it
good.
was needed. But we just want to remind you to like the episode. Make sure
Hmm.
you subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed so that you get notified when we are going live.
Hmm.
And you can share this episode as well, especially if you know a go-to girl, strong woman, somebody who knows it all, can do it all, who's always being asked to do things, share this episode with them, and maybe it'll bless them in some kind of a way. And remember, if you'd like to engage with the show, either as a featured entrepreneur, a guest expert, or a community contributor, or even ask your question to the coaches. We can read your question and answer it on air, or you can join us live and we can talk about whatever your challenge or situation or issue is, and get you some coaching / advice from the coaches.
Right.
You can go to thecoachesrn.com to get more information on any of those options. And just a reminder that we will be coming live to you twice a month on the first and third Mondays of the month. So we will see you. I got to pull up my calendar because I forgot the date already. We will see you on May 19th. That'll be our next episode, 8 p.m. Eastern time, live on YouTube. And I think I've said everything that I need to say.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
well, thank you for joining us live. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on May 19th.
Bye, y'all.
The coaches are in. When you need a timely, transparent friend, tune into the coaches are in. Talking career, business, health, and wealth. You got a friend now. Into the coaches are in. With authenticity, come on, let's take a seat and tune in.